that's exactly what the system is doing. It's producing its grave diggers throughout this country, in the prisons, in the schools, on the streets. You got people who don't even know exactly what they're doing, but they are practicing digging the grave of imperialism, and we want to really begin to start passing out shovels to facilitate this process, and that's what this whole resistance has to be about. So let's come to the convention, and I want to mention one other thing, because that's what I am trying to do, is to make resistance the norm, and conscious resistance the norm, and recognize as for what it is, resistance. So even in March 26, just a couple of months from now, the Black is Back Coalition will be conducting a national conference in D.C., a national conference on the other wars. That's how we characterize it, a national conference on the other wars. Because we are tired of a white left and an anti-war movement that has defined war as something that impacts or has implications just for white people, either in the future or right now, or as something that they can use to build their organizations, etc. Because Afghanistan is terrible, and what is happening in Pakistan is terrible, and Palestine and all these places. And these are struggles that you cannot duck, you cannot get away. They're in the public view, and U.S. soldiers and servants of U.S. imperialism, like the illegitimate white settler state of Israel, stand to have people lose their lives, and it has ominous portent that is obvious to many people that makes the getting in on stopping that war of some significance. But the real wars are the other wars. The real wars upon which the whole imperialism rests are the other wars. The real wars are the wars in Congo, where since 1998, you've had maybe 7 million people killed. The real wars are in Haiti, that made the earthquake disaster as significant as it was, that created the conditions of poverty and the miseration of the people. The real wars are at the borders, where they have several different kind of military agencies just to deal with Mexican people who they kill on a regular basis out there. The real wars in Philadelphia and in the African communities here and throughout this country, and those are the wars that we are going to force people to have to deal with. They can say, we don't want to have anything to do with it. That's all right too. Because there was not a single white peace organization, anti-war organization that came with us to Washington, D.C. on November 13th. Then not one showed up as an organization on November 13th, because we have begun to challenge the definition of what they call peace and what they call war. Because we are not just for peace. We are not interested in imperialist peace. We are not interested in the kind of peace that happens on the plantations just because the slaves are not rising up. We are not interested in the kind of peace that George Bush was looking for. Bush was for peace too. Obama is for peace too. They just want the people to stop resisting, stop struggle. That's the kind of peace. And that's the kind of peace that the peace movement is involved in. We say that to talk about peace in the world, the way the world is constructed today, is to talk about victory for the struggles of the oppressed peoples. It's not just talking about some abstract kind of peace. So we are creating a situation on March 26th where we're inviting people to come. We're having somebody to come to talk about the wars that's happening in Africa that U.S. imperialism is involved in. To talk about what's happening at the Mexican borders, where U.S. imperialism is involved. To talk about what's happening in Haiti and the historical and ongoing role of the U.S. involved in that situation. These are the kinds of things that we're going to put on the table. Also, the objective is not just to put them there, but to grow the resistance and demand that this left, that this peace movement, that this anti-war movement recognize these other wars, and therefore the righteousness of the resistance that is forthcoming. Uhuru.